Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller, and I'm joined today with the VP of Sales and Engineering of Usheco, Alethea Schaeffer. Alethea, thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me, Brent. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So first, tell us about your background, right? I mean, you have a really cool background from a family business all the way up through your current roles. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in plastics manufacturing. My grandfather started a business and I started working there when I was 15, sweeping floors and doing the grunt work that you would imagine in a family business.
Absolutely.
After college, I spent a few years going to different jobs, one of which was in precision metal fabrication, as well as design and builds for large companies. I moved into a robotics, bearing and robotics department and ran a bearing and robotics department for the chip industry for a little while. And I was an engineering manager at an industrial lighting company. So I had a bunch of different roles before I came back to plastics, but I'm back in plastics now. And like you said, working as VP of Sales and Engineering at Usheco, which means that I wear a bunch of different hats, as in any small business. It's not just sales and engineering. There's HR and shipping sometimes, or whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, you're probably more like the COO than or the president than anything else, right? Yeah, you just wear those hats. It's just normal. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the history of Usheco and kind of what you're seeing in the industry. And for everybody out there, right, tell them a little bit about the types of products and what they're used for as well.
Absolutely. So Usheco was founded in 1961, and we actually started out as a metal fabrication company. And when a customer came in, as my grandfather often did, he always said yes. And they were asking for a plastic tray, an easel tray. And he was like, absolutely, we can do that. So he built a thermoformer from scratch, and we started in plastics, and that was how we started. We've grown into a 40,000 square foot facility now. We do not only thermoforming, but injection molding, CNC routing, die cutting, bending, and assembly work. We also just invested in a roll-fed thermoforming machine. So that means we can do packaging, which is very exciting in large volumes.
It is really exciting.
Yeah. So, our newest purchase is definitely more automated. It's much faster and able to produce parts at a fraction of the cost of sheet forming, let's say. So
wow, that
was really exciting for us. And yeah, recently, about 7 months ago, I actually decided to purchase my own company, Formal Plastics in Meriden, Connecticut. And we have a complementary business here, which does roll-fed thermoforming, so thin gauge, same as the machine that I was just talking about we invested in at Usheco. Same type of process. Right. We can do clamshells or blister packs, just really part protection products. And it's a nice complement to Usheco in that we focus more on low volume. So pretty much up to the tens of thousands, but not millions, right? So this kind of fits the gap between our sheet forming process and our Sencorp roll-fed thermoformer, which is, much faster than my process here at Formal Plastics.
So, Alethea, tell us a little bit about, so for people that are trying to connect the dots a little bit, give them some ideas of how these things are used, right? So like a clamshell, right? Or some of the plastic trays, like where they would see them, or because I know you work with not always the end user, but like someone that is packaging stuff up that has to be protected and that kind of stuff.
And other custom metal fabricated parts, that, people are looking to make sure that those metal components get to the next step of the process or to the end user in a safe manner. So
your packaging protects all that stuff.
Exactly. And we also do some food grade products. So maybe molds for a certain type of food or clamshell packaging, which you find your cupcakes in at the store, things like that. Also, any packages that, like plastic packages that are holding up your tool in Home Depot, it could be something like that as well.
Really cool. Right. Yeah. And so for everybody listening, right, so that's a great way to start to visualize what Usheco and Formal are doing. So this is an industry that is going to continue to evolve because of the amount of things that are being shipped, packaged. It's growing like crazy, right? We've talked to several logistics companies that are in different areas, right, than what you guys do, but still the same concept, right? Where we're selling more things online, everything's being shipped in larger quantities. So how do you see, like, what are you seeing? Because you have a pretty good bird's eye view of the shifts in the industry. What are you seeing?
I see some people finding that going overseas, which was a big deal, especially prior to COVID, they're finding that they're having issues and looking for local solutions to their custom plastic problems, right? They want to find somebody who is within a certain number of miles or driving distance from their shop because they want to work directly with someone instead of somebody over the phone. I find that myself and a lot of the people I work with tend to work with other local businesses. My rule of thumb is about a 3-hour commute. If I do have a problem with a vendor, I can go right to them and deal with them directly if need be.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We've seen a few models work, and they used a 4-hour radius because they thought a semi could get out, right, or any kind of delivery truck could get out, go out 4 hours, and come back, right? And so they draw the 4-hour radius around their fulfillment. So what you're talking about is something very similar. And I heard similar stories, and you tell me what you saw during, but when COVID hit and all of the shipments they went up by, 5, 10, 8, 10 times in cost because of the demand and the lags that were happening. A lot of things came back, right, that were being done over there. Are you seeing that trend continue?
We definitely saw that trend in the last few years. Recently, I think there's been a little bit of a lull in the industry in general for whatever reason. But I do anticipate that trend to be bringing at least low quantity plastic manufactured parts to the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks, right? Tracks with everything we're hearing. So talk to us a little bit about what you see now that you guys have made some investments for sure, including, right, buying Formal as a complementary business. What do you start as you look down the next 1 to 2 years? What do you see? Where are your opportunities and what do you see coming in the industry?
Definitely more automation. That's what we're trying to look into at this point. But automating the processes that are more physical in terms of our employees being on a machine all day, doing the same thing, finding different ways to get those processes done. And we're really looking to our team to help us with that innovation, right? What things can we automate? Can we make easier for you? And looking to see what their input is.
That's a great way to do that because RPA, right, robotic process automation, right, it comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, but it certainly starts to free up your employees to do more meaningful things and get rid of their repetitive tasks. So when you frame it that way to your staff, that's a great way to start to figure out how to bring that automation in the right way because you can't do it all, right? You have to figure out where's your big ROI levers, right, in your process.
Right.
And are you guys doing that? Because I know there's lots of ways to do that, lots of firms. Are you just doing that like as an internal kind of project to figure out where your opportunities are and then figure out how to get that done?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've talked about for a long time and are still exploring is like a robotic arm that is universal that can be implemented in multiple departments. Because we're a small job shop, we need something that is customized and can be utilized in multiple different areas for, eliminating the repetitive tasks, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, so something that has some flexibility. So you're not buying one thing to fix one problem. You're buying one thing that could fix multiple problems, and you can readjust it as needed, right? Depending on the job. That's an interesting dynamic and a very smart take on that, because you're not talking about, a big pharma company that can just do that, to do the same assembly line, right? Your jobs are probably different, and you need that flexibility. So for everybody listening, I think that that's a really good point that Alethea brings up, is that, depending on your needs, right, there are different ways to implement RPA or AI or any sort of automations. So make sure that everyone takes note. That's a really good call out. So Alethea, as you start to look down the road, do you see certain opportunities in certain areas more than others? Right? Is healthcare a bigger opportunity for you guys versus maybe some of the stuff you were talking about with, the metals and the springs, which might be in automotive, or it could be in industrial or manufacturing? Where do you see the opportunities?
So most of where I see growth are other OEMs that are looking for packaging for their assembled parts. So it could be like any industry that is, assembling something, right? But mostly like industrial equipment and things like that.
Yeah. So another question that I have that anybody that's in any sort of machining will resonate with, and again, a lot of folks that are watching the podcast might not know this, but I know that CNC staff are hard to find and a lot of times in high demand these days, right? Because they're harder to find. Is that a challenge for you? Again, I know you probably had some folks that have been on staff for a long time, but do you see that as a growing concern? Because HR and staffing is always, especially a small business, is always things you got to keep your eye on and keep a finger on the pulse of.
Absolutely. So that's an interesting story that you're touching on with the CNC. So we do work with a lot of different tool makers so we outsource our tooling, and we are seeing the decline out there in tool makers, which is making it really difficult. The population that is about to retire, and it's a growing concern for sure, especially on the tool making side. What I think was interesting about this is that we hired someone who worked in the granite industry for many years, no CNC experience whatsoever. And he has been with us, I believe it's 7 years this year. And when he came on, he just started learning with us. We helped him with classes and trainings and certifications. And now he is our lead CNC person and production manager at Usheco. So shout out to Tommy.
That's fantastic. And you probably just gave a bunch of people some ideas. So, and for all the young folks that are college age and coming out, there's some really good opportunities in tooling and machinery. So please, if you're thinking about something, consider that. We hear that story more often than not, right? Mm-hmm. There's just areas in which they're really just an older generation, like you said, that is about to retire, and there hasn't been the stream of replacements. And we've heard that over and over. So for everybody listening, there's good career opportunities there.
Yep, absolutely.
So Alethea, where else? So you're running two different small business companies, but the challenges all remain the same. And so do you see the ability to keep up with emerging tech and automation, staffing and recruiting? Where are your biggest risks and challenges that you're always worried about? Like, what keeps you up at night about how to run the company the best way forward?
I think like staffing is an issue. I've been very lucky lately. But I think that it's a big time sink for trying to do it yourself, if you're not outsourcing that. So that's been pretty tough. We are lucky in the sense that we always train our own people in-house, because
that's a big benefit.
Yeah. And I think no matter where we are, and what I found, whether it's in Kingston, New York, or it's near Meriden, nobody really has the plastics manufacturing background that would allow us to have somebody just hop in and be able to, and not expect that they would require training. So it's kind of just, I think it's a little bit different than some other industries or some other companies because we just know we have to do in-house training. There's no way around it. We're not, unless we hire someone from a distance and then they have
Relocate them,
to
right?
relocate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole, challenge too. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, and they probably go hand in hand, right? So the more investing in things like the robotic arm you were talking about probably also gives not only some of your current employees some new toys to play with, right? So where that helps in their career, but two, right? It frees them up and allows them to do more impactful things for you, and which probably increases your chance of keeping them and retaining them. So I feel like they go hand in hand now that, the more we talk through it. But yeah, I mean, really, really, insightful stuff. So let's talk about, now Formal. So you bought Formal recently, right? In the last couple of years. Are you integrating that? Are you running it as a standalone, or are you just wearing a CEO hat and a VP of sales and engineering hat?
Yeah. Well, for this foreseeable future, they will stay separate entities. And part of the reason for that is that Formal has a very local customer base, and we do stock parts for our customers, and they will come and pick up same day sometimes. So they really enjoy that aspect of having a close vendor that they aren't paying for any shipping. They're just sending their driver to come pick up. And we keep the parts in stock for them. So the business relationships that we have here at Formal are, very location based. And I think it would be very difficult for us to move. Same thing with Usheco. We have big customers that are very local to us that, I think it would be difficult for Usheco to move and keep the same customers.
Yeah. So we did a podcast a few weeks ago with a founder and CEO out of Chicago, Amber from Cicero, and she started a product company. So now she's running two companies, right, same time, and she decided to elevate the overhead stuff into an umbrella company to share the cost across two. It's just food for thought. It's a good podcast to watch. But you're the third or fourth podcaster that we've talked to that has now running multiple companies. And Amber was the first one that say, "Hey, how can I, unburden some of this and create that floating company at the top?" So just some food for thought for folks out there, because I know that there are multiple founders and CEOs that, as we start to talk about consolidation in industries, right, and complementary value adds, right, why you bought Formal in the first place, is where, figuring out ways in which to make those companies better, right, over time. And so, again, that's just one way, right? The value add to your customers over time will hopefully be to be able to service them both, in both different ways. Anyway, tell me a little bit about now, as you look down the road, is there any other industry insights or anything that you want to share that you think is relevant before we get into our last final couple questions?
Just really quick, I wanted to thank you for that idea from, I think it was Amber, right?
Yes.
So
I'll send you the podcast link so you can listen to it.
Great.
She was great.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it for the conversation so far.
Yeah. Well, and again, we're going to want to track you and hear how Formal goes and how you grow that company over the, so we'll circle back with you later in the year for sure.
Okay, great.
So I always ask the last couple questions, and I told you we'd ask is, one, have you played with AI? And if so, what's something cool you've done and tried with something like ChatGPT or an AI tool?
So personally, I love to put in what I have in my fridge or my pantry and put it into ChatGPT and see what kind of recipe I can get. Especially to use up food before it goes bad,
Yes.
And then professionally, I've used it to help write like profiles and bios for myself when I'm doing an event. And it also knows both Usheco and Formal now because I've just put in so much information about them that it can help me come up with a sales strategy or something similar to that. So pretty much that's my extent, just using ChatGPT.
No, honestly, first off, I never do it enough personally. So I'm going to try that with the stuff in my fridge because
It works so good.
my 3 girls are now my youngest one graduated from college and it's got her own apartment. So it's my wife and I, and we're like, man, we need to start cleaning and using more stuff that's in the fridge. So I love that idea. I will steal that from you. Yeah. The other thing is throw in like the OEMs in there and see if it'll find more OEM opportunities for you, because that's something that I talked to someone a couple of weeks ago and he told me the same thing. He's like, I need to find more OEMs in a different industry, but I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And I said, why not throw them into ChatGPT and see if it'll do the research for you at least.
Yeah, I actually have done that as well a little bit. And it does come up with some relevant companies, some not so much. So you kind of have to.
Yeah, sometimes it gets it wrong for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite get that
Keep
one
training
yet,
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep training it. All right. So tell me, you could pick Usheco, Formal, both. Tell me, if I give you a magic wand and you could hit your growth goals in the next 12 months, what would be the biggest challenge or biggest thing that could empower that?
I think just getting in front of our customers more, whether that means social media, email blasts, making sure our website is getting, first pick for when you type in thermoforming in the Northeast or something. So really finding different ways to get in front of our potential customers. I think that's the biggest thing.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So one last thing, and we'll put all the links below. Tell them how to get in touch with Usheco or yourself about Formal as well. So, and again, you'll be able to send us all the links. We'll get them below the podcast.
Great. Yeah. So again, I'm Alethea Schaeffer. You can contact Usheco at info at Usheco, USHECO.com. And you can reach me at Formal at Alethea, ALETHEA at form-all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I can't wait to get this podcast up. And like I said, I'll shoot you over Amber's podcast so you can steal some ideas.
Perfect.
Like I said, she put it out there, but you're it's third, fourth in the last 2 weeks that has the multiple companies. And
wow.
It's really cool because we're seeing consolidation both in product lines and with value add. How do I serve my customer base better? And so there you go, right? Again, one step at a time, but a lot of times there's just value adds that you can do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brent, for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. I got a lot out of it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, we did too. We love it, and thank you for spending this time with us. We love it. Everyone, for the latest episode of Future Proof, just go to our YouTube channel or go to our website, futureproof.ai. But Alethea, we'll get this thing up in a couple of weeks, and we will send you a bunch of links so we can get those linked and we can get people connected with you.
Great. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.